So the question was, when you hear a voice or when you get psychic information or you hear like somebody calling your name and then you're like, where'd it go? And then it's gone. Like, what do you do? How do you get it back? So the first thing I would say is if you can more quickly, like just rather than be taken aback, because I think sometimes people think if it's a spirit, it's obviously or it's automatically more powerful than you. And that's not true. It is really like the spirits are all different levels of evolution, just like humans. So if the phone rang at your house and somebody started to talk, say your name and even started to give you information, you wouldn't just sit there and accept it. You wouldn't just listen blindly. You'd be like, well, who is this? Why are you calling? Like, how do you know my number? Like, so it's the same with spirit. When you get these like messages, to stop and say, hi, okay, who is this? And sometimes that's when you get your answers, because people were asking, well, how do I know if it's my fear, if it's my heart, if it's my mind, if it's an amazing, ascended master guiding me, like, how do I know? Or if it's my ancestors or what, or somebody in my life, thinking about me and sending me a telepathic, which is from their mind to my mind broadcast. And the way you know is simply to ask, just like when you're on the phone, go, who is this? So sometimes I'll hear a voice, and I'll be like, well, where's this coming from? And I get, oh, it's a program from my dad. It's sort of a thinking pattern that runs through my head sometimes because I genetically inherited it. So that's it. Or it's a, learned behavior. Sometimes it's a spirit. Sometimes it's a friend. Not only are we, when we become more powerful receivers, not only are we receiving more, we're also sending more too. That's another conversation, and we cover that in my intuitive training program. But the answer to how do you deal with when the information or the voice comes, just say, hi, who is this? If you can. And not be taken aback, and don't think it's any different than a person on the street saying hi. Because it may not be.
Okay.
It may be an angel, and it may be just a ghost. So there's been some questions about, or some comments about people getting guidance, like wild guidance, like you need to go to Egypt and you're going to see the spaceships, or you're going to get on a plane and go to this other country and like this and that. And so how do you know when it's like this wild flight of fantasy, or if it's really your truth to do it? And we were talking about sometimes we get a voice talking to us, and it could be any kind of being from any level of evolution. It's not necessarily your truth. So one thing to keep in mind is you're always going to attract, like the concept that like attracts like. So you're always going to attract energy that you have some alignment with. That doesn't mean you're exactly like it, but it does mean that there's something in you that invites it. And with that said, it doesn't necessarily mean it's your truth. So sometimes those of us that are bright lights, like those of us that are naturally very spiritually sensitive, it's like if we're walking through a crowd to a spirit in the air, they're looking at all the heads bobbing up and down as all the heads are walking through the crowd, and they see one of ours, and they go, there's a light bulb, it's like all the flies. They all go to that one light bulb, and that's you, like you're it. And so just know that as you develop spiritually and you get brighter and brighter in your light, in your spiritual light that you shine, you're going to be attractive to a lot of different people, spirits, and everything. So it's just like if you got famous, like you're going to have a lot of opportunities. They're not all going to be right for you.
No.
So when you get sometimes the guidance like you need to go to Egypt and wait for the spaceship, is it the aliens that want you because you'd be great on their planet, or is it really that you want to do that? I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but just to ask these kinds of questions. Somebody was talking about, when she trusts her gut, and I was saying, is it your gut or is it your heart? Because it feels to me like when we're in our hearts, like we feel our hearts flow and open, we feel more energy through our body, and it feels good for us. That's aligning with our truth. So we might get a guide or some guidance or information that will help us with that. And we might get some that we go, well, this makes me feel a little weird and a little wobbly, and it's kind of exciting, but it feels weird and wobbly, and I'm not sure if I feel my heart. Then it's subject to question. So just because you have an offer doesn't mean you need to accept it. And you can accept that it's a validation that you're a bright light, and that you can ask, well, what in me is allowing this in? So that's a little deeper exploration. Thanks, everybody. I'm Ann O'Brien from floweringsoul.com, and we just finished our class on tapping into your intuitive power. So if you want to learn more about the things we just talked about and how it applies to you in your life, so that you can start to trust yourself and make sense of the different guidance that you might get and learn how to really make sense of it and follow your own instincts, then join my next intuitive training program. You can learn more at floweringsoul.com/intuitive training. I look forward to connecting with you soon.